when the planets have a particular combination, a geometric shape in going around our sun in our heliosphere or our solar system. Heliosphere and solar system are the same thing. It gives us an insight to what is happening around us. And I'll go over the planets a little bit, but when we are born in our particular biosuit, where we are on the planet at the time of our birth, when we take our first breath, we get an energetic pattern that puts an imprint on our physical body. And from what I understand, we choose this moment in time. And because of, you can go past life, lineages, why we're here, what lessons we have to learn, but what our gifts are going to be. All of that is going to happen when we take our first breath. So not everybody, many people want a very favorable astrology chart. In fact, I just, somebody wanted me to do their chart, and they said that they were excited because they had all grand trines in their chart. And then they're dating somebody that have squares in their chart. Well, squares indicate challenges and inner struggles, and trines have to do with ease. But I've often find that unless you have those squares and oppositions in your chart, you're very lazy, because you have all these gifts and you have no impulse to use them. You just keep them to yourself. So you have to have challenging aspects. In fact, some of the most challenging aspects in the challenging times will birth the greatest people, because they have had to overcome all kinds of adversity. So it's a little bit about astrology. Now, I am taking astrology to a different level. We're going to look at the planets today, but we're also going to look at what our heliosphere is doing, our Earth is doing in the greater scheme of things. So last month, I introduced that we were going into a 2-year stargate with the star system of Sirius. So I've been thinking about that, and I'm going to get into solstice and all that, but I've been thinking about that. What does that mean? I mean, we're going into a stargate. I mean, it's kind of like ambiguous, sounds exciting and exotic, but is it? And what does it really mean in our everyday lives? But Barbara Hand Clow goes in and talks about the dimensions, and the Sirian dimension is the 6th dimension, which has to do with, remember I told you that we have an impress in our body at the time of our birth. It's kind of like a pattern. Well, the Sirian energy in the human genome has to do with our blueprint, our human blueprint. The Sirians, from what I understand, are masters of sacred geometry, and they use light and sound and create form. And they helped the human race, our human as we develop, have particular patterns so that we can develop into conscious beings, going from animal man to conscious, spiritualized humans that walk around the planet, which is what's happening right now. You think that we already are that, but actually, if you look around the planet right now, you can see that many people haven't achieved that level of consciousness yet, because there's a lot going on that is not aligned with the Pachamama, okay, so to speak. So, Destin, read to everyone. Does it help if we give our birth date? Well, not in this particular thing right now. We're going to be talking pretty general about what's happening right now. So, I mean, if you want a individual reading, that would be really good for that. And I do that through Light Body. I mean, you can sign up for that. But anyway, so when this particular Stargate was activated last month, the human race as a whole has the opportunity to consciously look at how their biosuits have been programmed. When we are birthed, our biosuit is already programmed. We have a lineage from our mother, a lineage from our father, and then we have lineages also from various star systems and star elders. I mean, we have all of that. We have actually everything in the cosmos all in this physical body. And we resonate to that at different times. So humanity as a whole, this stargate that's opening up, we have an opportunity now to look at all of our patterns within ourselves. And maybe even, and this is going to be activated also by the Saturn, which I'm going to get into. But we have an opportunity the next 2 years at anything that you wish to change in your patterns, in the way you navigate on the planet. You have an opportunity to take action and change that so that you can become, you can birth yourself to the higher dimensions that are coming in on the planet. Okay, so so a Stargate has to do with an acceleration of a particular energy coming in on the planet, and it will activate stuff in our biosuit. It will activate programs in our biosuits. Some of them will be positive and some of them won't be positive. And the ones that are not so positive, the ones that you want to change, you have an opportunity to look at that with, maybe people around you and change all that. So I hope I'm making sense at this point. Does anybody have any questions about what I'm talking about so far? Okay. So this week, we had a new moon. And we also are going into the summer solstice, which is an intensification of energy on the planet. It means that in the northern hemisphere, we are taking in we have the most light coming into our body, and we're preparing to take that light into ourselves. So we are changing from being aware, going deeper inside of ourselves to go internal all the way to the winter solstice. And in the opposite way, down in the southern hemisphere, you are preparing to take more light into your body. You're opening up to the days growing longer so that you can take in more light. So you are the most internal that you will be all year around. And we are the most external of what we have learned. So that's what the switch is all about. But that said, every year at this time, we align with the pole star Polaris. Okay, now Polaris, our Earth rotates on an axis like this, and it's slanted. We're on a tilt. And right through our Earth is an invisible string that points to a particular star. And when we point to that pole star, it takes through the precession of the equinoxes, it changes pole stars over a period of time. It takes 26,000 years. Now, this is getting a little complicated, but I'm going to get to exactly what this is meaning. So, over various times, we are pointing to Polaris right now. And Polaris is in the constellation of Gemini. So, for mass humanity right now, as we speak, where our solar system is in this time, we are directly aligned with Polaris. So we have the capacity to look at our dualistic nature within ourselves. What do we want on a personal level? And what do we want on a soul level? So that is an energy that is coming in this week, very loud and clear. And I don't know if any of you have been experiencing that, but that is an intensification of energy that's coming in right now. So any of you that are on the path of your spiritual quest, spiritualizing your human body and your programs, if you notice, there's always a dilemma of what choice you're going to make. Are you going to go to what everybody else is doing and what the programs are and what's going on in the world around you? Or are you going to go to this next level of making choices what's better for you and the planet that's coming in, birthing the planet into place? And also going into the summer solstice and the new moon. New moon is all about new beginnings. Now, the reason I also went into this aligning with Polaris is this particular new moon is exactly conjunct the Polarian energy, the Polaris energy. So it's actually intensifying our need to find out what our authenticity is. But this new moon also is in relationship to the planet of Neptune. And Neptune often blinds us to what we really want. But so that said, we have an opportunity at this time to go deep inside of ourselves with our intuitive nature. That's the only way we are going to get answers at this particular time. So our intuition is really important this time. And Saturn in the sign of Pisces just went retrograde yesterday. Now, what does retrograde motion? We talked about retrograde motion with Mercury retrograde. Retrograde motion it's like an apparent backward motion. It looks like the planet is going backwards. And the way it goes, okay, Mercury's going around the sun. We have Venus going around the sun. We have the Earth going around the sun. So as the Earth is at this position and Saturn is at this position, because we are closer to the sun, it looks like Saturn is going backwards, but it's really not. It just means the Earth is going ahead faster than Saturn is. So Saturn retrograde in Pisces as of yesterday is giving us the opportunity to define and develop discipline to get in touch with our intuitive qualities, but also our delusions and our blind spots and our programs of deceit. So from now all the way until November, and actually all the way until next February, is an opportune time to develop our intuition, to dive into to discipline ourselves to go into a meditative nature. If you are going to meditate at any time, this is the time you should start that discipline to go inside of yourself. Because Saturn is in Pisces, which is the sign of meditation. And it's also a time to embrace your intuition. So oftentimes when we have intuitive inclinations, we want to discard them because it doesn't make sense to us. So now is the time to actually discipline ourselves to embrace that intuition. So Tammy says, how do we suggest to grow our intuition? Okay. Are you ever doing something with your family and all of a sudden something tells you that you should come out and say something? Or if you're in a group, You have an intuition about a particular feeling, but you don't want to express that. Oftentimes, it's best to bring that forward to see what other people's response would be to that. So you're having an intuition, and we have been taught by the programs within us not to follow our intuitive feelings within ourselves. So this is a perfect time to start putting a plan together. And every time you have an intuitive thought, either write it down or take action on it and see where it leads you. Go on, Gina.
Yeah, I have a tool that's been working for me, speaking to everyone and Tammy Lee. What I want to say is we all have intuition, which is what we've just been speaking of, and there'll be certain areas where it's essentially heightened and that we do pay attention to it. And that could be, you know, being a mother or a businesswoman or a person that cares for horses. There'll be something there that you listen to that intuition in that field, because that's where your antennas are used to growing and feeling and and relating to. And then when I set the intention to, okay, I want to increase my intuition, which is what you're saying, then pay attention to where it comes from. And for me, the funniest one was I was walking down the shopping aisle and I went past the baked bean tin section and I felt my intuition and felt me wanting to buy 4 tins of baked beans. And my logical brain went, no, that's silly because I've got tins at home. And I didn't get it. And when I got home, the whole family had eaten all the baked beans. So it's just a muscle, and you set the intention to expand your intuition beyond your normal fields of receptivity, and it will respond.
And it's very, until you develop that muscle, it's really uncomfortable because you keep doubting yourself. There's a doubt that comes up where you'll say, oh my God, maybe people are going to think I'm crazy, or, this doesn't make sense. There is no logic, but something is impelling you to make a decision about something. And this, from now until February, if you were going to put any plan together, so astrologically, it is time for right, because Saturn has to do with discipline. It has to do with not discipline. It is discipline. It's taking action to increase your oh God, what is the word? Oh God, it escaped me. Authenticity. It's not even that. It's accountability.
Yeah.
Accountability. That's Saturn. Saturn is, but it's putting a program together. And as much as we're getting away from old programs, this Polaris energy that's coming in, what we're doing is programs that have been in place, that have been mechanistic over eons, have passed down from our mothers to our grandparents, to our great-grandparents, through governments, through all of this. This is old paradigm. So right now, you're using your intuition to develop new paradigm, the paradigm shift that we are going into. And the only way we can do that is take the risk of following what your heart is telling you. And one way to do that would be set up a program. I mean, we're talking about it now. Like, I think last time I told you that we were entering the Syrian Stargate, and write down what you want to be in 2 years from now, whether you think that you can be that or not, and see what happens in the next 2 years. And I mean, write a letter to yourself and see what manifests, because you can't even comprehend where you're going right now, but your intuition is taking you somewhere. And this is what we have to embrace at that time. What the Aquarian age is all about is group consciousness. We have to work with each other. You have to work with another person. It's really, really important, because you can't see your blind spots. And you have to be willing to accept the truth about yourself. Truth is very important right now, because as we are aligned with the pole star, we're also in opposition to the galactic center. And the galactic center is ultimate truth right now. And we are aligning with our soul authenticity, but getting absolute truth, so that we can take what is the galactic center? It's a black hole. And what happens when you go through a black hole? Black hole is like, it takes in all kinds of light. But what does it do? It discombobulates everything, and outside is the white hole, which means it takes everything apart. You go through the other side and you're something new. So that's exactly what we're doing. That's aligning with the galactic center, is actually discombobulating everything that we knew, reformulating it, putting a new plan together, and creating something that is absolutely new. And we can't even know what that is. And the only way we can take action on that is to take one step at a time. So you follow your intuition, it leads you here. Then something else opens up. You take another step and it leads you here. But astrologically, when I talk about planetary encodements, I think about what I'm going to say and what we can actually utilize and take action within our everyday lives. Something that is doable. So I'm giving you information as to do this. And if you don't do it tomorrow, I mean, maybe you'll do it next week. But right now, the new moon's always a good time to start something new. We have the most amount of light, so we can see what we're doing. That's the solstice. We're aligning with Polaris. It's giving us a choice of, do we want to go to old patterns, or do we want to create something new? Saturn, we're having the new moon that was squaring Neptune. We must follow our intuition and not know where we're going. We have to, it's kind of like we're walking through a maze and we're just trusting that we're going to get through to the other side. And that's the only way that we are going to create something new right now. Now, the saving grace can be Saturn, because you can actually put a plan together, and maybe like, every time I do this, which I want to change in my life, I will do this to counteract that. Whether you pay yourself a quarter or whether you talk to somebody, like when I, what you're doing is you're putting a plan together so that you can develop your intuitive nature and help people expand that within you.